sex and money are the two most complex things. It's like, it's all about power. Who's in control, right? I'm holding this thing from you. You won't give me this thing that I need and want. And so help it, right? And then I feel like you don't like me. I feel abandoned. And then it's like, well, why would I do that when you're not even nice to me? Because I'm over here hurt. So it's, it's all defenses.
Hey, I'm Jen, host of the Open Bedroom Podcast, where you'll find topics of sex, dating, relationships, non-monogamy, and more. I'm glad you're here. Let's dive in. Okay. Welcome back to the Open Bedroom Podcast. Today I have Andrea Dindinger on, a licensed family and marriage therapist and a relationship coach of 20 plus years experience. She helps individuals and couples break patterns, rebuild trust, and reconnect through her private practice, online courses, which we'll talk about at the end, and social media. Today, we are talking about how to stop having the same fight over and over and over again.
Jennifer, I'm just so happy to be here. And I'm excited to get this topic to people because we all have the same fight again and again and again. And it's exhausting.
Okay, dive us into it. So I guess the first question I would have is why? Like you feel like as adults, like we don't want to live Groundhog Day. So why do we keep triggering each other in the same way? Maybe that's perhaps it. Or why do we keep fighting the same way? And
why do we keep fighting about getting out the door late? Or why do we keep fighting about the coffee cup being left on the counter instead of in the dishwasher? Or, we all have that same fight. And what's underneath that is, I know we all hate that fight, but what's underneath that is a way that you and your partner or partners is trying to get connection, trying to say like, hey, I'm over here. I need you to see me. Like I'm hurting here. And so when we often don't do it, and it's like, I'm sorry, I'm late. Like I had to, change the laundry. I'm coming, right? We just defend against it. We explain against it, which then keeps this loop going and going and going. If it's like, yeah, I'm late and I know that stresses you out, let's go, right? It's like, I know what's happening for you as a small child when people didn't consider your time or you got yelled at or screamed at because you were running late. And so you made an agreement with yourself. I will never run late, but it terrifies you when you're late and when somebody else is running late. And then on top of it, then you have this feeling like they don't love me. They don't like me. They don't respect me. They don't value me. And so that loop just goes around and around and around. And I think what's really important about the loop is I can teach you a bunch of different ways that we can look out for different flags or cues. But I think what is super important is to recognize like when the loop starts, it is an invitation for intimacy. It's an invitation for connection rather than a blame, a shaming, a beating, you're bad kind of a thing. And that oftentimes gets confused because you didn't mean to really put the coffee cup on the side of the sink instead of in the dishwasher. It wasn't a big deal for you. It doesn't matter to you. But when you recognize that, oh, my person just got really upset about this coffee cup and they get upset about this coffee cup often, hey, that's an invitation for me to connect. There's something else happening here.
So you just gave us a whole lot of stuff, and I want to stop and break it down real quick because I feel like I put little pins in everything. Okay. So the first thing that I heard you say, the first scenario, I mean, you just gave us a few, but the first one, let's talk about running late. So in a relationship, there's two different types of people and they're operating from two different childhood programming, wounded trauma things. So there's let's just say the guy who doesn't want to run late, because to me, that's normally the guy. Just in my
Hmm.
experience, I seem to attract military dudes who, on time is 30 minutes early, which is really fucking weird to me. So I have experienced this now with two life partners, where felt like I was never on time because on
Hmm.
time wasn't on time, early was on time. So, can you help us understand? This is such a great archetype to start with because I think almost all of us have at least one of these people in
Yeah.
our family. It was our
And
dad.
they find each other. We
Uh-huh.
find each other.
Of
Like
course.
that's my Lego.
Okay, so this archetype of can't be late, gotta be on time. The whole world's gonna blow up if we're not on time. Like, slow for just a second because you went over it really fast. But like, what are the components and inputs into that human that makes them believe that if they are ever late, the world is going to crash? What will
Mhm.
happen? Like, what made that? Because I think understanding a person and a person's trauma helps us to feel empathy and it helps us to
Yeah,
slow down. It helps us to consider our own actions that maybe we don't want to hit that trigger button every single day, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Or every single week or even every single
Right.
month.
Yeah.
And when you're a person who runs late or in your case, like on time, not
Yeah.
early on time, it can be really confusing. But what's happening on the other side is tremendous fear.
Okay.
It's anxiety, but underneath that anxiety is fear. And if you think about being in the military,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the kind of trouble you would get into if you were late, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just not tolerated.
There's
It's not
punishment.
tolerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Physically,
Punishment,
you're doing running or laps or you're getting screamed at. Oh
push-ups,
my gosh, I can't
hmm
imagine. Okay. Got it. Fear.
humiliated in front of your peers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fear, probably some shame, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what do people think if we get there late?
Okay.
They're like, why are you here 30 minutes early?
And you and I are like, no one gives a shit. But that's
Right.
okay. Okay. So, because
People
it's
are
real
actually
for them, right?
grateful
The shame and
for sure.
this anxiety and fear is real. Okay. Is there any other emotion under the surface for this person, or are these the primary?
Well, I think it's like anger is the protector. Like that's the defense
Oh,
that
okay.
that we
That comes
that
up
we
first.
bump into. Right. That's the first thing. But then what's underneath the anger is the anxiety,
Okay.
is the fear, is the shame. Almost like the shame is at the core, and then the next circle is fear, the next circle is anxiety, and the outside circle that's protecting all of those really tender feelings
Yeah.
is the anger.
Yeah.
And
Why
that's
are
what
you late?
you
Yes.
you are always late. You never can be on time.
Wow, that is super strong. Okay. So the opposite is like, let's just assume it's the wife because it's normally the wife that's a little airy fairy.
It's
Or
me.
yeah, it's me too. So like this is more like airy fairy fluid, like, she's gonna just throw one more
We're
thing into the dishes.
fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm sure this is not healthy either. So tell us about this particular archetype.
So that person, and I think it's often women because there's so many things that are going through their mind around, well, if I throw this load of laundry in the dryer, it will be dry when I get back.
Mhm.
And if I move these shoes over here, then we're not going to trip on them when we
Yes.
come inside the door. And I should run the dishwasher because we're having people over for dinner
Yes.
and the breakfast. And I might as well throw out the compost because I'm walking out the front door. Right? It's like
Efficiency. We are the
efficiency.
queens of efficiency and multitasking.
Hmm. And
That's
oh,
not
we
always
have to
good.
bring the well, it's no, it's not always good. It causes a lot of problems. In some ways, it's an amazing attribute, and the world would probably shut down without it.
Mhm.
However, it impacts our people. It impacts our children. It impacts our partners. It impacts ourselves actually, because we're so many layers outside of the present moment. And the present moment is I need to walk out the door and get in the car.
Okay. I also have run into an archetype or sub archetype of this that really is hippy dippy. That's like time doesn't exist in my world and I just get lost in it. And sometimes it's 15 or 20 or an hour later, like, is there anything different with that archetype versus I'm with you, I'm efficiency chick, like
Hmm.
always
Hmm.
what's in the least number of
Hmm.
steps? How can I get 500 things done so I can not have to do them later? And then there's hippy dippy fairy, like I have no idea what time
Hmm.
means. And
Hmm.
and is there like some sort of I don't know, what's the issue with that? Are you disassociating with the world because you're living in
I
a
think you're
fairyland tale?
I think you're disassociating from the world. I
Okay.
think that there is, it's also a little bit of it's going to sound bad, but it's a little bit of an entitled mindset. You're not actually thinking about what else is going on
Okay.
around you. Um, you're in your own space, and not recognizing that we are, social animals that, we need to be together.
Yes.
We operate in a way together.
And
Um,
it's so cute that these two little lovebirds would attract each other because he's like, I need more flow in my life, like subconsciously, right? And she's like,
mhm.
I need the masculine to hold the container for me because if not, I'm going to end up in the fairyland. So, in this particular situation of partnership, how do you stop having the same fight about time?
So what it is you're not going to stop the trigger.
Okay.
Like you can't stop that trigger because that trigger is a knee-jerk reaction.
So even if she
Um,
learns how to set her clock back an hour early to make sure she finally lands on time, he's still
for
going to
sure.
be like freaking out that she's not going to be done on time.
Not going to be able to do it consistently because
Okay.
she's the airy fairy.
Oh,
Even
okay.
if she sets her clock back 2 hours, she's going to know I have 2 hours so I can, right? And maybe she's, not an hour late. Maybe it's only 15 minutes late. But we all have these like just our unconscious patterns of how we do things, right? Like I remember this professor I had in grad school who said, masturbate with a different hand
Yeah.
just to bring some different awareness to it. Brush your teeth with a different hand, right? So it's like bringing that more conscious awareness. When it's time and how you get out the door, it's consciousness is super important, but you will have that same fight. Maybe you're going to get it right for the next 6 months, but then 6 months in, it's going to happen. So that's where I want people not to feel badly about the fight happening. It's more than what happens once that trigger starts. And that's where so much of the power exists. That's where like there's so many more possibilities and options that are out there for, and it doesn't matter if it's a conversation with your kid, your coworker, your parent, like your neighbor. We don't tend to have those same kind of fights with relationships that are a couple rings out there. But in the intimate relationships, we're going to have them again and again. So it's to recognize like, oh, we're in that moment.
Okay.
That's the only place you can stop.
Before you tell us how to fix it, let's go through one more scenario. So we talked about
Okay.
Mr. who's always on time, drill sergeant, and Miss Airy Fairy. You also mentioned we can pretend like he's also the cup Nazi, right? Where he's like, "Why are you putting your cup there and it's not in the dishwasher?" And then she's just like, "I don't know, because I set it down." Tell us about those kind of archetypes where it's not about time, it's about stuff around the house, because that feels incredibly relatable too.
So when it's around, I mean, all of these issues are around respect. And so when it's the stuff around the house, right? Like we all grow up in different homes. Some people's homes are, clean and organized. Some people's homes are chaotic and messy. Some people's homes are just kind of quite everybody grows up differently. So you're going to have a different preference around putting cups in the dishwasher in this scenario. So the person who is, please put your cup in the dishwasher, please, in that like really tight way. And the other person's like, I don't even notice that I don't do it on purpose. It doesn't matter to me. Like those different archetypes also find each other perfectly. Um, like I need somebody who's going to help me get my shit together a little bit better. And I need somebody who's going to help me relax a little bit more about this. But at the end of the day, we want somebody um, who values us. Maybe they don't value the same things we value, but us. And so when it comes to, I don't even know how I would describe it. I think it's just somebody who's got a different level of awareness and who doesn't have any awareness around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that for sure. And I've been really lucky, at least with my past two life partners, to attract men that are as equally clean as I am and like have the same expectation. Like my first husband's not like
Mm-hmm.
that, but my second and Scott, they are, which is wonderful, right? To not have that
Mm-hmm.
particular thing be something crazy, but we certainly have a time or scheduling issue in our house. Like Scott's, like you said, the words, it just doesn't matter to me. Scott is that way about calendars. I am the calendar woman. And he's like, I don't even know what day it is. She'll tell me when I have some. I'm like, I'm not your fucking secretary, but I kind of have
Or
become
I
that.
don't want to use a calendar. I have
Yeah.
so many people say that. I'm like,
And I have like 15 Google calendars and a thruple calendar and a quad calendar and a kid calendar and an ex-husband calendar and all my client calendars. And then that funny how you attract that. Okay. All right.
mm-hmm.
So you're saying we don't have to fix ourselves. And even if we sort of tried to fix the airy fairy part of us to fit more with like the drill sergeant energy, we're going to slip up and we're going to still kind of fall into airy fairy because that's how that we're wired. And so you're saying it's not that we fix. It's once we go into the argument, somewhere within the argument or how we come out. So I'm ready for you to
Yes.
tell us how to fix ourselves.
So like with the I guess with any of the scenarios, right? Like the more trust you build within the relationship, the quicker and faster you will resolve some of these things. With the cup analogy, you leave your cup there and they, freak out because that cup is there. The first thing I would want you to go is like, oh, they're not freaking out because they're annoying or, you know, controlling, which, they are. They're being controlling in that moment, but it's not because they're controlling or it's because they don't feel loved in that moment. And so once you recognize that putting that cup in the dishwasher is the same or maybe even better than saying, I love you. It's like, and when you start learning, like, oh, this cup in the dishwasher, me walking out the door 30 minutes early communicates that I love you, that I value you, that I respect you. Now, what happens is you're going to mess up, right? And so then on the other side, the person who freaks out gets to say, oh, I'm freaking out. Um, but I know, they love me and that this isn't personal. They're not doing this to me. They're changing the laundry and running the dishwasher and right that this isn't personal. But until you can have some perspective, it's really hard to do that because it feels very personal that you have said 1,001 times, put your cup in the dishwasher when you're finished. And it doesn't happen. So that's where you have to slow things down in that moment. In the moment, you generally want to say, like, hey, something's gotten triggered here. It's around the time. Let's not talk about it right now. I love using the word bookmark. Can we bookmark this moment until after the party? Can we bookmark this moment and talk about it, in 2 hours? And so we both can kind of come into a more calm and regular inside of our nervous systems. And the agreement beforehand to come up with your special word is the way you can say, hey, when I say bookmark, it means I love you, I love me, I love us, I love this relationship, I love our time together. But I know you're not in your um, present frame of mind. You're in a past old story and dysregulated. I know I'm also not in my present state of mind. And so it's like respectful and loving to call a timeout.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then when you do come back together and you take out the bookmark, what does that
Mhm.
look like? What does it sound
When you
like?
take out the bookmark. So with the let's go with the like running late. So hey, I was running late and I want to know what happened. What happens for you when I run late? You know how I feel about time. It feels disrespectful. It feels like you don't care about me. We don't share the same values. Okay, so you feel disrespected, you feel unloved, you feel like I don't care about you. Yeah, that's how I feel. And I just want to appreciate you for sharing that. I love you. I care about you. And you're right. How I, and that like, you're right is such a key piece of that because you're right. That's what my behavior communicated, that taking that accountability. It wasn't what I was consciously trying to communicate, but you're right. That's what, you know,
Mm.
knowing that is an important component for you. Um, that that's going to land on you in that way. And then it's like, well, why would you do that? Well, on the other side of it is like, I'm a human and I'm going to make mistakes. And it's that place of like, right. And I need you to remember that I really do love you. I really do respect you. And so it's like breaking it down into like these like kind of pulling apart the like knot in a little bit and breaking it into smaller pieces.
Mhm.
And then it's to come up with like a real plan around like how do we want to do this going forward? We've had this conversation 1,000 times. Okay, I know. What I want to do is I know this is really important to you. And if it's really important to you, I want it to be really important to me. And the person takes on it's my husband and I have the same thing. Like he wants to be to the airport 2 hours early, and I think that is a monumental waste of time.
Mhm.
Monumental. But he had to travel a ton when he was a kid, and it was never safe for him. And I recognize like that's this place inside of him. And then so I start saying like, okay, we'll get to the airport 2 hours early, 2.5 hours early when our children were smaller. Still, monumental waste of time in my mind. But I see what happens to his nervous system when we do it. And because I love you, because I respect you, we start to do it differently. And so he knows for me, like my mantra is we'll get there when we get there, not a minute before, not a minute after. So I'm always like chanting that mantra for his nervous system, because that would have been nice for somebody in, some of the adults in his family to do
Mhm.
when he was a kid. And then I start improving. He starts relaxing. Improving is not the right word, but I start being more conscious of my time. He starts relaxing because he feels safer. And we get to the airport an hour and a half before our flight. But then I feel like a superstar because I've I've gotten there early enough for him to be able to relax. And he feels like a superstar because he's let go of this 30 minutes and been able to manage all of his feelings.
I love that. Thank you for following that thread all the way through. Would you do the same thing with the cup? How does that
Yes,
conversation go after you go to the party and you come home and the cup is still not where it needs to be?
it's a little bit different with the cup because
Okay.
with a cup, you're doing it in a really repetitive way. But I think underneath it is like, I feel loved when you put the cup in the dishwasher. And I actually feel unloved, disliked, disrespected when you don't. And for the partner hearing that's the significance of this cup that has zero significance to you, you recognize like, oh, I have to value the like our difference. Like our difference in this category is super important. I don't value the same thing that you do, but I value you. And so that's where I often tell people like put a post-it note in your kitchen until it becomes something that you start valuing. And my husband has this hilarious thing. He's like, you have infected me. And I'm like, how do you mean? He's like, before I knew you, I could go to bed with the kitchen a mess. And now I have to run the dishwasher. I hate waking up with a mess if we've had a huge group of
Are
people
you like,
over.
you're
And so
welcome?
it's, or say like, well, my world, what a joy it is. But it's that place of like, I value what you value. I recognize you are calmer, you are more relaxed, you are kinder, you are happier when I actually let you know that I value you. And so I want kindness. I want relaxation. I want that sense of flow and that connection. And so if it's as simple as putting my dishwasher, then and then for the person who's like, you put your cup in the dishwasher, right? To recognize like I feel loved by that. And it's again and again. And then
Mm.
you of course will leave the cup out, but it's not as big of a deal because you've been doing it so many times.
And you're probably more apt to just pick up the random cup that he occasionally forgets and just stick it in the dishwasher, not say anything. Because,
Hmm.
okay,
Hmm.
this is fascinating. So I think what I'm hearing from you is, our partner is going to trigger us. And then, or one partner is going to feel more triggered, the other one is going to not care. So they're more neutral about a thing. Do you go with the partner that is more triggered and that's kind of the one that you, I hate to say honor, but you figure out how to kind of soften that for them by complying? Is that true?
Well, it's not complying because I hate that. Like,
I know.
I do not, like I'm not willing to contort or shrink myself for another person. Um, I really want people to show up and be adults and be, however, when when the person I love the most or the people I love the most are in their younger state of mind, I would never treat, a child that way, even if it was my child,
Mhm.
right? I would never. So I recognize that, sometimes I go there, we all go to that, 3-year-old in ourselves, that 13-year-old in ourselves. Um, and we need somebody to give us a little bit of a break. What happens is when we start doing this kind of co-regulation,
Mhm.
that the person who was a 3-year-old when you first started starts to become a 10-year-old, starts to become a
Mm.
13-year-old, 30-year-old, and becomes much more mature and adult. When they don't mature is when we stay in that loop and just fight back, defend against what they're saying.
This is amazing. Okay, so we stop having the same fight through co-regulation, and you've told us how to do this. I think there's a huge space that we have not brought into this conversation. We've talked about like different archetypes of people that have different archetypes of fights or different,
Hmm.
we haven't talked about sex. And that to me is
Oh,
like such a, we're having the same fight, right? Like, if we want to again take this kind of archetypical thing, it's like he wants sex all the time. And she's like, I don't want to. I don't really want to have sex, right? And so then there's like this over and over and over and over and over fight. And then I try to think like, well, who's more charged and which one? Again, you don't want to use the word gives in, but like which talk to us about sex and your practice and like what do you hear most from couples around fighting in the bedroom or not fighting and
hmm.
not having anything happen in the bedroom because there's fights about sex. I don't know. Tell us all the things.
Right. That like both people are on their phones. One is over there seething. One is completely ambivalent, or oblivious.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it is for sure a problem. And then especially for women, as we age and go through perimenopause and menopause, right? The libidinal energy, if women aren't attending to it, um, you know, it's like a flame that just kind of can
Go away.
go out. Yeah. So there does have to be attention drawn to a lower libido. Um, and then so it's like sex is the most complex. I mean, sex and money are the two most complex things. We do the fights around the lateness or the cup or what have you, but it's like it's all about power. Who's in control,
Mm,
right? I'm holding this thing from you.
hmm
You won't give me this thing that I need and want. And
mm,
so help it, right? And so, and then I feel like you don't like me. I feel abandoned. And then it's like, well, why would I do that when you're not even nice to me because I'm over here hurt? So it's just, it's all defenses.
mm.
Everybody is defending against what the other person says. So one of the ways I help my couples do, um, and like back to the woman who's got I got to buy new cleats. I've got to buy a dress. I have to order a dress and then shoes. And I'm right. Like I got to take my mom to the doctor. The dog has to go to the vet,
Yeah.
pay the guard.
Mental load
Oh,
is real.
and the mental load blocks our libidinal energy.
hmm
And when partners and women just we're more complex creatures in some ways. So we're going to hold things in a different way. And so one of the exercises I assign to my couples is to get in bed naked and have some sexy logistics talk and just say, like, in a sexy voice, talk about, what you have on your grocery list and how you have a hair appointment on Saturday and, how worried you are about if the kids have the right things that they need for the dance and slowing it down so that your partner is like, all of these things that are going on in your head are really interesting. And they start caring about these things, right? The person who's sharing the things. And it's not necessarily always the woman, it is often. But when she starts sharing all of the things she's thinking about, I'm worried about my body and, I'm feeling like I'm sort of fat, but, is that plumpness, right? And it's just this way of playing with it. And for the partner who's listening, if both people are in bed naked, it's not guaranteed we're going to have sex, but it's the possibility is there. And so when both people start letting the kind of those defenses out through their mouth, the thoughts drain out, their bodies start opening up and relaxing. And I think there does have to be a willingness to, you know, go to the gym. Like you want to get in better shape. Some of it is a little bit like just crossing that threshold, getting in bed, getting naked. I like to encourage my couples to rent a hotel room because you're away from all of this stuff
hmm
that also, brings that, it's like static noise in your head. Um, and oftentimes then there can be a feeling of like, ooh, this is actually sexy. This is, oh, I remember what this used to be like. But it does take the person who's being denied sex a lot of curiosity, a lot of patience, a lot of playfulness, and the idea is like also that the foreplay starts well before you get to the bedroom, well before you get to the hotel room. Um, it's someplace that you tell somebody like, you look so hot in those jeans, or you put that cup in the dishwasher, and and you say like, I put the cup in the dishwasher, and you look hot in those jeans, right? Somebody's like, oh wow,
Mm.
right? We it's like we kind of stop seeing the other person. We focus on the things that they're not doing versus the things
hmm
they are doing, and so then it begins to shift that significantly.
I bet that's really difficult when you're not living in a constant state of awareness of your partner and his jeans or, like how cute he looks in that shirt. I'm sure it is really difficult to find ways to turn that back on again, especially after decades of being together.
Yeah. Well, and it's also this place of like, maybe you don't see how cute he looks in the shirt, but what if he sees how cute you look,
Mm-hmm.
right? If the person who's not seeing, um, if I wasn't seeing you, but you were like, oh, Andrea, I really love those earrings. It'd be like, oh, you see me, Jennifer. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, I love your earrings. Where did you get, right? And then we're like in this place of connection. Um, something silly like earring, but it's like, oh, you see me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we are so desperate to have um, that kind of connection.
Yeah, just being seen.
Hmm.
So as we've been talking, for me, Gary Chapman's love languages keeps popping up in my head, and I feel like part of this is the way that we're wired for love, but part of it might be something else. How does that play into what you see with your clients?
Well, I think we are all, we all have like one primary, but all five of those
Mm-hmm.
love languages, like that's what we want. And that's kind of what we get in the beginning. Um, and so it's that bringing that in, and then you have your different attachment styles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's more avoidantly attached or ambivalently attached or anxiously attached, like we were talking about earlier, like that's a really anxious attachment style. Um, so you have the love languages, but then you have this attachment style, and the most secure attachment style can help the others mature up. And, I hear this complaint all the time. Andrea, why am I the one who has to do the regulating? Why am
Uh-huh.
I the one who has to practice the curiosity? Why am I the one who has to get naked in bed when I could give two shits about having sex?
Mm-hmm.
And what I always say is like, every dynamic needs a leader. Every relationship needs somebody to say, I'm the leader. So much chaos happens when somebody doesn't say, I'm the leader. And as the leader, you have the responsibility not to, you know, press your thumb into them to make somebody do something, but to sit back and open your heart and be like, hey, something's going on. You haven't wanted to have sex in a while. How are you feeling? Tell me a little bit about it. Right? Like, hey, you've been really frustrated about something, and I'm wondering what's going on. Well, could you leave the freaking cup on the side of the sink?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh, right. So somebody has to be willing to step into that leadership position. And I love Mel Robbins' book, The Let Me Theory. But the part that or Let Them Theory, but the part that I really love is like, let me, what we all have options of how we can respond. We feel like so powerless, like we can't do anything. And actually, we all have the choice of how we want to respond to different things. And so I think it comes into like, the all of those components, like, oh, I want to have a different conversation than we've been having. I don't want to keep having this same fight. Let's talk about it. Let's see what's under here. Um, I don't want to keep not having sex.
Hell yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I was thinking about every relationship needs a leader, and I'm definitely the leader in mine. With all the girlfriends and everything that we have going on, I'm always the leader. I'm the calendar person, and I make sure everybody gets on the schedule. Everybody feels loved. I've got everybody's like emotional regulation temperature happening. Like this one needs a little more. This is good. And it's fucking exhausting. What can we do? And
Mm-hmm,
I mean the collective we. If you're not a
mm-hmm,
leader, how can you help support your leaders? Because leading is a lot of work. And I even think of like BDSM with dominance and submission and how much work it goes into doming someone else and how much care and love and constant
mm-hmm.
check-ins. Like we're doing that with our families and our kids and our partners. And like, if you're not a leader, how can you support your leader?
I think that comes back to that place of consciousness of like, okay, Jennifer, you are always doing the calendar. And I really appreciate it. So probably appreciating the leadership, right? Like, you know, you're having to manage when I feel safe or when I've gone past my safety level. And I really appreciate it. So it's part of it goes back to the 5 love languages. Like I really see and appreciate what you're doing for us. Then as people start growing and maturing, they can say like, hey, I'm going to take over the calendar. Or with the calendar, which is cool because they're all digital, is like, I'm going to be more mindful about putting my stuff on the calendar so that Jennifer doesn't have to reach out to me and be like, hey, we have this and this. Like, you know, Scott could be like, oh, I see on the calendar.
That would be amazing.
And you would probably orgasm right there on the
Yeah, he
spot.
would.
Just like
He's like,
those,
where's the fucking calendar again? And I'm like, oh my God. I would.
but
I
that's
probably
him
would.
waking up.
Yeah. Oh, I like this. I like this a lot. Okay. All right. You've got a couple programs to help people find support in this kind of thing. One is called Loop Breaker. One is Relationship Reboot. You've got this newsletter. You're on social all the time. Tell us all the things of ways that we can get into your flywheel of stuff.
So the easiest way to get into all of it is to just go to my website,
Okay.
and it's therapy with Andrea dot love instead of .com. It's a little bit tricky in that way, but that's the easiest way. That's where you're going to get a ability to sign up for my newsletter, which is really fun. And I'm like brutally honest in there and super direct. And it's a pretty good newsletter. I think people are really enjoying it. Then you can also sign up for my courses. You can see, you know, the Loop Breaker is only $17. It's only 20 minutes. And, you know, I go into real depth about some of the things we've been talking about. You know, I have like scripts in there that people can kind of practice with and memorize so that they kind of know what to say in those moments. And then I have the relationship reboot on there. And that's more extensive than the Loop Breaker. It kind of breaks things down. It's longer, but it helps. Everything I'm doing is hoping people can wake up to their unconscious patterns and have more awareness around what they're doing and how they're doing and how it's impacting the other person. And you can't do that unless you start, you know, investigating yourself and then seeing oh, if I stand around this room, I can see all the things that Andrea would see that need to get put away. Right. But that takes some awareness. That takes waking up. So all of the stuff I'm doing is that. And then obviously they can follow me on Instagram at AndreaDindinger.com, or on TikTok is Therapy with Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I love when I can have a guest on who gives real practical help. And I feel like anyone could watch this episode and be like, okay, I know what I'm going to do differently tomorrow. When I know I'm going to be late, I'm going to trigger the fuck out of my husband. I'm going to do something different, or I'm going to put the bookmark. I love the bookmark approach. You gave us so many good tools today. Thank you, Andrea. We appreciate you.
Oh, Jennifer, thank you.
You're welcome. And for those of you listening, if you'll just go down into the show notes, I'll make sure and put all of Andrea's links below so that you can like her, you can follow her, you can sign up for that $17 course and get out of the loop, get some awareness in your relationships.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Have an amazing day, guys. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Open Bedroom Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and give us a like and click subscribe below and stay up to date on all the new episodes that we release. If you have a topic that you'd really like more information on, leave us a comment below and we'll see what we can do. Feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and especially your partners. This is a great way to open up some amazing conversations. We'll see you next week.